I have a far more positive take for those watching and listening at home. The policy that covers New Zealand's emissions, our emissions target, that sets a cost of carbon, is set out in the Climate Change Response Act and in the Emissions Trading Scheme. It's covered by existing policy, Mr Abel. Mr Abel, your grandstanding, your climate alarmism, your donation harvesting doomism and your cult-like fear-mongering about climate doesn't change the fact New Zealand has well-thought-out policies and ways to address climate change in line with our international obligations. And Mr Abel says, what about those lobbying me? They don't need to, Steve. I'm a civil engineer. I understand science. We do not need to be lobbied. And I tell you what, all of this narking and nasty commentary and behaviour about that policy guru, Matt Burgess, who came from the New Zealand Initiative. We had the benefit of that gentleman working in the New Zealand government. And I tell you what, every time somebody writes to an MP or a minister or a minister's office and shares a problem that their sector faces around flawed policy or regulation or legislation, that's normal and it should be encouraged. And do you know what staff members and ministers' offices should do? They should say, if there's really a problem here, let's fix it. That's the difference between the harping goblins of the climate doom left and this government, which says, yes, we've got to play our part in climate change, but we're not sending New Zealanders to penury. We're not extinguishing the last lamp and going back to live in a cave. We're going to get on with business, with farming, with producing high-quality milk and dairy products that we sell to the rest of the world. And we're going to get our energy out of the ground, whether that's coal, whether that's gas. Hopefully there'll be some nice, juicy, wet condensate coming out with that gas. Debbie Narua-Paka would know all about that. She's from Taranaki. It's the wet gas that makes the money, Debbie Narua-Paka. And it makes perfect sense that people who are concerned about an activist, somebody who in their past cut down the tree on One Tree Hill to make some kind of flawed point, I don't know, about sovereignty or whatever it was at the time, is now suing some of our largest corporates with the claim that they've damaged, I don't know, what was it, his mana or the mana of his iwi and hapu or their health, when in fact, what's that, Steve Abel? Say it again. When in fact, what is helpful in this bill is making sure, that's what this government is doing, that pending litigation could lead to a finding that causing or contributing to the emission of greenhouse gases results in tort liability. That would create a parallel and contradictory regime to the one provided in, say, the Climate Change Response Act and others. We cannot have activists taking New Zealand businesses to court and then trying to force costs on them that are out of all proportion to their liability. And we know that's out of all proportion, what Mr Smith was trying to do, because these businesses already pay for their carbon emissions under the Emissions Trading Scheme. Furthermore, any emissions that are paid for in New Zealand but are not paid for, equivalent emissions not paid for in another equivalent emitter, just result in carbon leakage. You can squeeze the emissions out of New Zealand, you climate doomers, they're simply going to pop up somewhere else. That is called carbon leakage, and that is what New Zealand law and policy is designed to avoid. So seeking to punish the few rather than accepting there are actually some very effective policies that deal with climate change just ignores reality. ACT supports this bill, and we commend the Minister for bringing it to the House to clarify this.